The night was quiet inside the tall glass building. Lights from the city glowed outside, but the halls of the company were almost empty. Only a few men in expensive suits walked fast across the shining floor. Speaking in low voices about money and power, behind them, a man pushed a mop bucket. His name was Daniel. To everyone in that building, he was only the janitor, a single father, tired, with old shoes and a uniform that smelled of bleach. His job was simple: clean the mess, mop the floors, and stay invisible. The executives never looked at him. To them, he was part of the background, like the walls or the windows. And Daniel liked it that way. He wanted no attention. He only wanted to finish his shift and return home to his little daughter, asleep in their small apartment. But that night was not normal. Something was about to happen that would change everything. Daniel wrung his mop and pushed it across the polished floor. He worked slowly, his eyes lowered, but inside his head there was silence. A silence filled with thoughts he never spoke. Years ago, he had lived a different life. A dangerous life. But no one here knew that. The sound of the mop echoed through the hall. Then the air changed. A low hum shook the floor. The executives stopped walking. Their faces turned pale. The main doors of the building opened, and they walked in. Not humans, tall figures in silver-gray armor. Skin like pale stone. Eyes glowing with faint blue light. Their steps were heavy, yet calm, as if they owned the place. No one dared to breathe. The executives whispered in panic. "The investors are here early. What do we do?" But Daniel knew instantly. These were not investors. They were not even from this world. The tallest alien raised his head and spoke. His voice was deep, filled with strange clicks, hums, and echoes. The sound was sharp, like broken glass, yet smooth, like running water. It was a language no human should know. The executives froze. They could not understand a single word. Sweat appeared on their faces. They tried to respond in English, but the aliens tilted their heads in silence. Daniel's hands tightened on the mop handle. His heart beat fast. He knew this language. He had not heard it in years, but the sounds lived deep inside his memory. The aliens spoke again, louder this time. Their glowing eyes scanned the room. The executives panicked. One of them whispered, "Call security." Another hissed, "No, don't. We don't want to anger them." Daniel looked at the floor. He told himself to stay silent, to stay invisible. He was only a janitor, a single father. This was not his problem. But then one of the aliens looked directly at him. Their gaze locked, and Daniel knew there was no way back. Slowly, he leaned the mop against the wall. His shoes squeaked as he stepped forward. The executives stared in shock. "What is he doing?" One whispered. Daniel inhaled deeply. The old sounds rose inside him, the ones he had buried for years. His lips parted, and in perfect alien tongue. He answered. The words flowed smoothly, every click and hum precise. His voice was calm, almost natural, as if he had spoken it all his life. The hall fell silent. The executives froze. Their mouths hung open. The janitor, the man they ignored every day, had just spoken fluent alien. The aliens stepped closer. One of them tilted his head, eyes glowing brighter. Then, for the first time, they spoke softly. Not to the executives, not to the guards, to Daniel. The leader of the executives stuttered, "How? How is this possible?" His hands shook. "He's just a janitor. He's nobody." But the aliens ignored him. Daniel stood tall, though his heart raced. The years of hiding were over. He spoke again in their language, and this time, the aliens bowed their heads slightly, as if showing respect. Gasps filled the hall. The executives could not believe what they saw. A man with a mop, someone they thought was at the bottom of society, was now the center of attention. The aliens only looked at him, waiting for his words. Daniel's eyes darkened. Memories of his past life returned, a life he had tried to forget. But destiny had found him again in the middle of a polished floor. With his mop still dripping water on the tiles, the executives whispered in fear, "Who is he?" The answer was simple. He was not just a janitor, and the world was about to find out. The silence in the hall was heavy. Every pair of human eyes was locked on the janitor. The mop water still dripped onto the polished floor, each drop echoing like thunder in the frozen moment. Daniel, the man they thought was invisible, stood before the aliens. His chest rose and fell slowly, but his voice was calm, steady. He spoke again in their language, shaping the clicks and tones with perfect rhythm. The aliens responded immediately. Their leader leaned closer, his blue eyes shining brighter. He answered Daniel in the same tongues, lowly, carefully, almost. Respectfully, the executives could only stare, their mouths open, their hands trembling. One of them whispered, "He's speaking with them." Like he's one of them. Another hissed, "Impossible." No human knows that language. But the truth was right before their eyes. The aliens ignored the men in suits. To them, the janitor was the only voice in the room. They stepped closer, circling Daniel as if testing him. Their strange armor glimmered under the lights. One of them tilted his head and spoke a long, complex phrase filled with layered tones. It was a test something no ordinary human could answer. Daniel's lips moved without hesitation. He repeated the sounds, adding words of his own. He did not just copy the phrase, he answered it with meaning. The alien who had spoken paused. Then he let out a sharp hiss, something like laughter. The executives gasped. "What? What did he say?" one of them demanded, his voice cracking. Daniel turned, his eyes cold. He asked if I was a slave. Daniel said quietly. I told him no. The executives exchanged terrified looks. They had no idea what game they were now standing in. The aliens pressed on. They asked Daniel more questions, rapid and sharp, clicking their tongues in fast patterns. Daniel's responses came just as quick, smooth, and fluent. Each answer seemed to surprise them more. Finally, their leader stepped forward. He lowered his head in front of Daniel, and then, in clear English, he spoke, "You remember us?" The hall went silent again. The words cut through every human heart. The executives shivered. Daniel's face turned pale. He said nothing. The alien continued. "It has been many years. We did not expect to find you here, hidden among them." His glowing eyes narrowed. "Why do you clean floors when you once walked among the stars?" The words hit like a hammer. The executives looked at each other in confusion and fear. What did that mean? Once walked among the stars. Daniel clenched his jaw. He wanted to stay silent. He wanted this moment to pass. But the past had found him. Again, the youngest executive, desperate for control, barked, "What are you talking about? He's just a janitor. A nobody? Tell us what this means." Daniel's eyes snapped toward him. For the first time that night, his voice rose. "I am not a nobody." The sound echoed through the hall. The executives shrank back. Daniel turned again to the aliens. His shoulders straightened, his tired frame suddenly filled with hidden strength. "You should not have come here," he said in their language. "Not like this. These men are greedy. They will twist your words. They will not bring peace." The aliens exchanged glances. Their leader nodded slowly. "You still protect them," he said, "even after all they did to you." The executives were lost. One of them finally broke the silence. "All they did to him. What is this about? Who are you really?" Daniel's eyes darkened. said nothing, but inside his mind, memories returned. Flashes of a younger Daniel, standing on a metal deck, stars burning outside the windows of a ship. Strange voices filling his ears, teaching him the alien tongue. His wife. Beside him, laughing at his clumsy accent. Missions that ended in fire. A return to Earth that was not victory, but exile. And her final words, years later. When sickness took her away, protect our daughter. Keep her safe. Do not let them find her. Daniel closed his eyes, forcing the memories back into silence. The aliens took one step closer. Their leader leaned down. Your child, he whispered. Does she know? Daniel's breath caught. He looked up sharply, fire in his eyes. Leave her out of this. The alien tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowed in curiosity. But he said no more. The executives, desperate, tried to seize the moment. If you can speak with them, the head executive said, then you will translate for us. You work for this company. You follow our orders. Daniel turned toward him. His face was calm, but his voice carried quiet steel. I do not follow your orders. Gasps filled the hall. The executive's face turned red. You're just a janitor. You're nothing without this job. Daniel's eyes locked on him. You are wrong, he said. I was something long before this job, and I will be. Something long after it. The aliens spoke again, cutting off the argument. Their leader's voice rumbled like distant thunder. He speaks for us now, not you. The executives froze. The janitor had become the negotiator. Daniel looked at the floor, then at the men who had mocked him for years. Then he looked back at the aliens. His double life was no longer hidden. His secret was now in the open, and the world had just shifted. The room felt like it had split into two worlds. On one side stood the humans' executives in dark suits, sweating, whispering, desperate to hold power. On the other side stood the alien stall, silent eyes glowing like cold fire. Their attention fixed only on Daniel. The janitor Daniel stood between them. Not as a worker with a mop, but as the only bridge. The executives finally broke the silence. If you can talk to them, one said with a shaky voice, then you will help us. You will tell them exactly what we want. This company is the future. Do you understand? Daniel looked at the man slowly. His tired eyes were sharp now. I understand you want profit, he said. But they did not come here for money. The aliens shifted, their armor scraping softly. Their leader made a low humming sound, like a deep bell. Then he spoke to Daniel in their tongue, long and steady. Daniel listened, his jaw tightening. He turned to the executives. They say they are here to test humanity, to see if we are ready to stand with them, or to be left behind. The executives' faces lit with greedy excitement. Then tell them we are ready, one demanded. Tell them we have technology, we have resources, we have everything. Daniel's voice was calm but cold. No, you have greed, and they know it. The aliens spoke again, quicker this time, their language clicking and echoing in strange patterns. Daniel responded with the same speed, his words flowing smooth as water. The humans could only watch as the conversation raced beyond their reach. Finally, Daniel raised a hand to silence both sides. His voice in English was firm. They want truth, not lies. If you lie, they will see it. And if they see it, they will leave. The head executive stepped forward, anger flaring. Who are you to decide this? You clean our floors, you earn. Our scraps, you are nothing without us. The alien leader suddenly hissed, a sharp, high sound. The air grew heavy. Everyone froze. Daniel translated softly, his voice like ice. He says, you are nothing without me. The executives turned pale. The negotiation began. The aliens asked questions about Earth, its people, its wars, its unity or its lack of unity. Daniel answered carefully, choosing words that showed both strength and humility. He did not paint humans as perfect. He painted them as struggling, flawed, but worth saving. The executives interrupted often. No, tell them about our markets, about our factories, about our power. Daniel ignored them. He knew what the aliens wanted. They were not here for numbers. They were here for spirit. At one point, the aliens asked a question that froze Daniel in place. Their leader leaned down and spoke slowly, his voice echoing through the hall. Daniel hesitated before translating. Finally, he said, they ask, why we let our children suffer when we have enough to share. The words stabbed the executives. Like knives, they had no answer. They looked away, sweating. Daniel's heart burned. He thought of his own daughter, sleeping at home in their small, cold apartment. He clenched his fists. Then, in the alien tongue, he spoke. Because some men value gold over life. But not all of us are like that. The aliens listened. Their glowing eyes softened just a little. The negotiation stretched on. Hours seemed to pass. The executives grew impatient. They wanted control. They wanted deals signed. Finally, one of them snapped. He leaned forward and shouted, "Tell them we accept. Tell them we will give them anything. Tell them we are the leaders of this planet." Daniel turned slowly. His voice was deadly calm. You are not the leaders of this planet. You are only leaders of your wallets. The executive's face turned. Red with rage, "You dare," he began. But the alien leader raised a hand, silencing him. Then, in the alien tongue, the leader spoke to Daniel alone. Long words, heavy with meaning. Daniel's eyes narrowed. His lips pressed together. What did he say? The executives demanded. Daniel turned toward them. His voice was quiet, but each word cut like steel. He says, "I am the one they recognize, not you." The executives froze. The aliens began to withdraw, their armor shifting as they prepared to leave. Before they turned, their leader spoke one last time. Daniel translated slowly. They will return soon, and when they do, they will not speak to your company. They will speak to me. Gasps filled the room. The executives shook their heads in disbelief. You can't do this. The head executive shouted, You belong to us. You work for us. Daniel picked up his mop. His voice was calm. Not anymore. The aliens turned and walked out, their glowing eyes fixed on Daniel until the last second. Then the doors closed, and the hall was silent again. The executives stood frozen, breathing hard, sweat dripping from their foreheads. Their entire future had just slipped out of their hands and into the hands of the man they had mocked for years. Daniel picked up his bucket. His shoulders were heavy, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. He had tried to stay invisible. He had tried to live a quiet life, but destiny had dragged him back into the light. The city was still asleep when Daniel returned home. He walked quietly through the narrow streets, the night wind cold against his face. His mop bucket rattled softly in his hand, the sound almost mocking him. Hours ago, he was invisible. Now, he carried the weight of a secret no one else could understand. He unlocked the door of his small apartment. The light above flickered. Inside, everything was simple old furniture, patched curtains, second-hand toys scattered on the floor. But it was warm, and it was safe. At the center of it all was his daughter. She lay curled on the couch, a blanket pulled to her chin, her small chest rising and falling in sleep. Her long dark hair spilled across the pillow. On the table beside her was a half-finished drawing stars, spaceships, strange symbols. Symbols that should have been impossible for her to know. Daniel froze, his chest tightened. He knew those shapes. They were not random. They were alien words. He picked up the paper slowly. His hand shook. The letters were rough but recognizable. They said, Home. Daniel dropped the paper back onto the table. His heart beat faster. He whispered to himself, she shouldn't know this. She can't know this. A soft voice broke the silence. His daughter sat up, rubbing her eyes. She smiled sleepily. You're back late again. Daniel forced a smile. Go back to sleep, kiddo. Daddy just had a long day. But she tilted her head. Her young eyes, so much like her mother's, studied him carefully. Did you meet them? She asked softly. Daniel froze. Who? He asked carefully. The blue-eyed people, she whispered. His stomach dropped. She shouldn't know. She couldn't possibly know. Yet here she was, saying the truth he had tried to bury for years. He sat beside her on the couch. For a long moment, he said nothing. His hands trembled as he reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small locket, old and scratched. Inside was a picture of her mother. Daniel stared at it, lost in memory. Years ago, before the mop, before the loneliness, before the small apartment, he was someone else. He was part of a mission, not cleaning floors, but traveling far from them. He had lived among the stars. He remembered the first time he heard the alien language, not from books, but from their voices echoing inside a great chamber of glass and metal. His wife had been there too, laughing as he stumbled over the words. She was brilliant, fearless, and always one step ahead of him. Together, they had worked to build trust between species. Together, they had tried to create peace, until it all fell apart. The mission ended in fire. Promises were broken. Trust was shattered. Daniel and his wife came back to Earth in silence. Their names erased from reports, their sacrifices forgotten. He had buried that life and chosen to disappear. But his wife never fully let go. On her deathbed, her hand gripping his tightly, she whispered, "Protect her. She will carry what we could not. Do not let them find her." At the time, Daniel thought her words were only the ramblings of a fading mind. But now, looking at the alien symbols drawn by his daughter's small hands, he understood. His daughter leaned against him. "Mom used to tell me stories," she whispered, "about voices from the stars. I thought they were fairy tales. But sometimes I hear them in my dreams. Words I don't know, but they feel real." Daniel swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "You must never tell anyone. Do you understand? Not the teachers. Not the neighbors. Not anyone." She nodded, her eyes wide with trust. But she asked quietly, "Why?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because the world is not ready. Because there are people who would use you. People who would hurt you. And I will not let that happen." Tears burned his eyes, but he blinked them away. He had faced war, death, and betrayal. But nothing frightened him more than the thought of losing her. A knock came at the door. Daniel's head snapped up. His body tensed. It was nearly dawn. One should be here. He stood slowly, motioning for his daughter to stay quiet. He opened the door just a crack. Standing in the hallway was a man in a dark suit, an executive. His cold smile glimmered in the dim light. "We need to talk," the man said softly. Daniel's stomach turned. They had followed him. The man's eyes flicked past Daniel, spotting the little girl on the couch. His smile widened. "She looks just like her mother." Daniel's blood turned to ice. The man leaned closer, whispering, "The company knows more than you think. Don't hide from us, Daniel. We can give her a future. But only if you work with us." Daniel slammed the door shut, his fists clenched. His daughter ran to him, frightened. He hugged her tightly, whispering, "It's okay. I won't let them touch you." But inside, he knew the truth. The past he tried to bury was no longer buried. His daughter carried the same fire her mother had carried. And now both the aliens and the humans wanted her. Daniel sat in the dark, holding his daughter close. The weight of his secret pressed down heavier than ever. He was not just a janitor. He was a father carrying the memory of a broken promise and a protector of something far greater. The aliens had recognized him. The company had found him. And his daughter was beginning to awaken. The hidden past was no longer hidden. It had returned and it demanded a future. The morning sun crept through the broken blinds of Daniel's apartment. Golden light touched the walls, but there was no warmth in the room. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, his hands clenched around a cold cup of coffee. His daughter ate cereal, quietly, watching him with wide eyes. Neither spoke for a long time. Both had felt the shadow of the man in the dark suit the night before. Both knew that shadow was still out there. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "You don't go out alone anymore," he said. His voice was low, heavy with fear he refused to show. "No school without me, no playing outside. You understand?" His daughter frowned. "But Dad, no." His voice cracked sharper than he meant. He sighed, rubbing his tired face. "I just need you safe." She nodded, but her eyes glistened with questions she was too afraid to ask that same morning. In the glass tower across town, the executives were in a panic. The head executive slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot let him control this. He is a janitor, a nobody. And yet those creatures listened only to him." Another executive leaned forward. "Then we use him. We pull him in, whether he wants it or not. And if he refuses," his voice lowered to a dangerous whisper, "we use the girl." The room fell silent. Smiles spread slowly across cruel faces. They had found the weakness. Back in the apartment, Daniel packed a small bag. His daughter watched him, confused. "Are we going somewhere?" she asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. He folded clothes quickly, shoved food into the bag, checked the door lock again and again. Finally, he looked at her. "We might have to leave for a while," he said. Her lips trembled. "Because of Mom's stories." Daniel froze. His chest ached at the sound of her voice. She was too young to carry this burden. But now, the burden was already hers. He knelt in front of her. "Because there are people who will try to take what's ours. And because there are others out there who think you belong to them, but you belong to no one. You're mine, always." She nodded slowly, her small hand clutching his. That night, as Daniel sat by the window, he saw them again. Not the aliens. The suits. A black car parked across the street, its windows too dark to see inside. It did not leave. Daniel's chest tightened. He closed the blinds quickly. His instincts screamed at him. He had felt this before, back when missions were watched, when every move was tracked, when betrayal came not from enemies, but from allies. He knew what was coming. 2 nights later, the aliens returned. This time, they did not arrive in silence. The air itself trembled as their craft appeared above the city, cloaked in shimmering light. Windows rattled. Dogs barked. People looked up, terrified. Daniel felt it before he saw it, a vibration deep in his bones. He knew their presence instantly. A knock came at his door. Not human. He opened it slowly. The alien leader stood there, towering, his blue eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Daniel stepped aside. The alien ducked under the frame and entered. His daughter gasped but did not scream. Somehow, she was not afraid. She stared at him as if she had seen him before in dreams. The alien studied her, then turned to Daniel. His voice rumbled in their tongue. Daniel's face hardened as he translated. "He says the company is dangerous. He says they only want to use us." he warns. If we trust them, we will be destroyed. Daniel's daughter whispered, then we don't trust them. The alien's glowing eyes lingered on her. His lips curved, not quite a smile, but something close. But danger was already moving. The same night, in the tower, the head executive met with men who were not part of the company. Their suits were darker, their faces colder, their voices filled. With quiet power, they were government men. The alien contact must not be wasted, one of them said. If this janitor is the only one they trust, then he belongs to us now. His child too. The executive nodded eagerly. Yes, we already know where he lives. Daniel felt it before it happened. Years of instinct screamed at midnight. Engines roared outside. Black vans stopped in front of his building. Boots slammed the pavement. Men in helmets and armor rushed toward his door. Daniel grabbed his daughter, pulling her close. Her eyes went wide with fear. They found us, Daddy. Yes, he whispered, his eyes blazing. But they won't take you. The alien leader stepped forward, his body glowing faintly, as if ready for war. Daniel stood beside him, a father. With no weapons except his courage. Outside, the soldiers shouted. Inside, silence. The storm was about to break. The hallway outside Daniel's apartment thundered with heavy boots. Shadows moved under the door, weapons clattering against armor. Voices barked short commands. His daughter clung to his shirt. Her small fingers trembled, but her eyes stayed. Locked on his, Daddy, what do we do? Daniel pulled her close. We survive, he whispered. The alien leader stood at the window, his blue eyes glowing brighter than before. He spoke in his language, sharp and fast. Daniel translated quickly. He says they are here for us both, but he will not allow it. He says, this is where the truth comes out. The alien's voice rumbled deeper, almost like thunder. We did not choose your leaders. We chose you. Daniel's heart pounded. There was no more hiding. The door burst open. Armed men flooded the apartment, their helmets reflecting the weak yellow light of the old lamp. The head executive walked. In behind them, smiling coldly. Well, the man sneered. The janitor finally shows his worth. His eyes slid to the little girl and the child. Perfect. Just what we need. Daniel stepped forward, shielding her. You will not touch her. The executive laughed. You think you can stop us? Look around you, Daniel. You're outnumbered, outgunned. Do you really think these creatures will save you? The alien leader stepped forward, towering over every soldier. His glowing eyes burned brighter, his armor humming with hidden energy. The soldiers raised their rifles, fingers tight on the triggers. The room was one breath away from chaos. Daniel raised his voice, steady and sharp. Stop. No one fires. For a moment, everyone froze because even the soldiers felt something in his command. He turned to the aliens, speaking in their language, then turned back to the humans. They didn't come for war. They came for judgment. They want to know if humanity is worth standing beside. Right now, you are proving we are not. The executive snarled. We don't care about their tests. We want their technology, their power. And if you don't hand it over, we'll take it. The alien leader hissed, the sound vibrating through the walls. His words were sharp as knives. Daniel translated, he says you cannot take what is not given. You prove only greed. And greed leads to extinction. The tension snapped. One soldier shouted and fired. The shot blazed across the room, hitting the wall inches from Daniel's head. His daughter screamed, burying her face in his chest. Before another bullet could fly, the alien leader raised his hand. A wave of invisible energy slammed into the soldiers, throwing them back against the walls like ragdolls. Their rifles clattered. To the floor, the head executive stumbled, wide-eyed, What? What are you? The alien leader's voice boomed. We are the future you are not ready for. Daniel's chest heaved. He could feel the weight of every eye in the room. Humans glaring, aliens waiting, his daughter shaking. He knew this moment was more than survival, was a choice. Daniel stepped forward, his voice rising with fire. Listen to me. Humanity is not just you greedy men in suits. It is not just soldiers with guns. Humanity is mothers who give everything for their children. Fathers who mop floors to keep food on the table. Children who dream of stars they've never seen. That is who we are. The soldiers hesitated. Some lowered their weapons. Even they could feel the truth in his words. The alien leader watched Daniel closely. His glowing eyes softened, a quiet respect burning there. The executive, shaking with fury, screamed, "Enough. He's not one of us. He's siding with them. Arrest him now." But no one moved. The soldiers looked uncertain. Some even stepped back. Daniel's daughter, her voice small but clear, whispered from behind him. "Daddy's not siding with them. He's siding with us." Her words echoed in the silence. The executive lost control. He grabbed a fallen rifle, pointing it at Daniel. His hands shook with rage. "You think you can make a fool of me? You think you can stand above me? You're nothing but a janitor." Daniel's eyes locked on him, calm and steady. "I was a janitor because I chose peace. But if you force me..." His voice dropped, sharp as steel. "I will remind you what I was before that." The executive pulled the trigger, but the gun never fired. The alien leader raised his hand. The rifle crumbled into pieces, falling to the floor like sand. The executive staggered back, gasping in horror. The alien's voice filled the room like thunder. "Your leaders are corrupt. Your greed is poison. But this man, this father, speaks with honor. He speaks with truth. He speaks for humanity." The soldiers dropped their weapons completely. Some even fell to their knees. The executive backed toward the door, his power shattered, his face pale with fear. He pointed at Daniel one last time. "This isn't over. You've just made yourself the enemy of every man who rules this world." Daniel stood tall, his daughter holding his hand. "Then I'll be their enemy, because I will never be your slave." The alien leader stepped closer, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder. His glowing eyes blazed. "You are no slave. You are chosen." The room shook with the weight of his words. The confrontation was over, but the war for the future had just begun. The apartment was silent after the storm. The broken door hung loosely on its hinges. Soldiers lay unconscious or groaning where the alien's energy had thrown them. The air smelled of dust and fear. Daniel stood in the center of it all, his chest rising and falling slowly, his daughter's hand locked tightly in his. The alien leader stood beside him, glowing faintly, calm but watchful. The executive was gone, fleeing into the night. But his words lingered like poison. "You've made yourself the enemy of every man who rules this world." Daniel knew it was true. He turned to the alien leader. His voice was low, almost tired. "Why me? Why now? You could have spoken to kings, generals, presidents. Why choose a janitor?" The alien's glowing eyes fixed on him. His words rumbled in their strange tongue. Daniel listened carefully before translating for his daughter. "He says they choose not kings, not generals. They choose those who remember what it means to protect. Those who know loss. Those who fight not for power, but for love." His daughter blinked up at him. "That's you, Daddy." Daniel swallowed hard. He didn't want to believe it, but the truth was shining in her eyes. The alien leader reached into his armor and pulled out a small object. It shimmered in his hand like liquid light, shifting between shapes. Slowly, he held it out to Daniel. Daniel frowned. "What is this?" The alien's voice was steady. Daniel translated aloud. "He says it is a key. Not to a door, not to a weapon, but to knowledge. He says only I can carry it. And only she," he looked down at his daughter, "only she can unlock it." The little girl's eyes widened. "Me?" Daniel shook his head. "She's just a child." The alien's gaze did not waver. Daniel hesitated, then took the object carefully. It was warm in his hand, pulsing like a heartbeat. When his daughter touched it with one finger, it flared with light, filling the room in a soft blue glow. Symbols spun across the walls, alien words, alive, shifting like rivers of fire. Daniel gasped. He knew some of the words. They spoke of maps, of stars, of places beyond human reach. His daughter whispered softly, her lips forming alien syllables. She should not know. Yet the words came easily, naturally, as if they had lived in her since birth. Daniel pulled her close, fear and pride fighting inside him. The alien leader lowered his voice. Daniel translated slowly. He says, "This is only the beginning. Humanity is standing at the edge of a choice, to rise or to fall." Daniel clenched his fists. He remembered the greedy faces of the executives, the government men who wanted control, the soldiers forced into service. And then he remembered the tired mothers at the market, the children running barefoot in the streets, the families like his just trying to live. He nodded. "Then we'll rise. We have to." Morning came. The aliens left as quietly as they had arrived, disappearing into the sky. But they left behind the weight of their message, and the strange key that pulsed faintly in Daniel's pocket. Daniel took his daughter's hand and stepped outside. The street was empty now, the black vans gone, the air heavy with silence. Yet, he felt eyes watching from unseen places. The company, the government. They would not stop, but neither would he. His daughter walked beside him, her small fingers gripping his tightly. She looked up at him with a serious face. "Daddy, they're going to come back, aren't they? The men in suits, the soldiers." Daniel nodded. "Yes, they'll come back." She was quiet for a moment, then she whispered, "But the blue-eyed people will come back too." Daniel looked at her, surprised. She spoke with certainty, not hope, almost like she knew. He smiled faintly. "Yes, they will." That night, Daniel sat by the window of their small apartment, the city glowing outside. The strange object sat on the table, pulsing faintly, casting blue shadows across the walls. His daughter lay asleep nearby, the blanket pulled up to her chin, her face peaceful. In her dreams, her lips moved softly, speaking alien words. Words even Daniel could not yet understand. He whispered to himself, "She's more than me, more than her mother. She's something new." He looked at the stars beyond the window, his eyes burning with determination. "They think I'm just a janitor," he said softly. "They think I'll break, but I've mopped floors my whole life. I know how to clean up messes, and this world is one big mess." He clenched his fists. "I'll clean it. For her." Far above, hidden beyond the clouds, the alien ship hovered, silent and watching. Inside, the alien leader stood at the great window, his blue eyes glowing brighter. A second. Alien asked him something in their strange tongue. The leader's answer was simple. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "He will fight for them. He will fight for us. And when the time comes, humanity will not kneel. Humanity will stand." Back on Earth, Daniel sat with his daughter's hand in his, the pulsing alien key between them. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, war, peace, or something stranger still. But he knew one thing. He was no longer invisible. No longer just a man with a mop. He was the voice of humanity, and this was only the beginning.